This poor girl's name is Dong-baek. She moved to this neighborhood 6 years ago and opened a bar. She named the bar after the camellia blossoms. This made the people in this neighborhood think it was a flower shop. Until Dong-baek appeared, she was the most beautiful flower. It was the first time such a beautiful girl appeared in this neighborhood, so everyone paid a lot of attention to her. Her beauty made all the men in the neighborhood swoon, which made the wives here unhappy. But when they found out she had a child, they breathed a sigh of relief and complimented her beauty. But then these women quickly turned their attitudes. When they found out Dong-baek was a single mother, they became judgmental and wary. What's worse is when they found out her bar was a bar. The husbands in this neighborhood were all very afraid of their wives. If they wanted to drink, they had to drink secretly. But when they learned that Dong-baek's place was a pub, it immediately became their paradise. Husbands came here to drink, which made Dong-baek's business very favorable. But she was not liked by the wives here at all. They thought that a single mother who opened a bar would only last 3 months. But because her son was still young, Dong-baek worked hard until her wrists were red. In the blink of an eye, 6 years had passed. Dong-baek had always been very honest in her business, but she could not avoid trouble. This man was Dong-baek's landlord, and although he had a lot of money, he always owed money for drinking. Dong-baek had no choice but to go find his lawyer wife, but in the end, she could not get the money back because of Dong-baek's beauty, so the wife was unreasonably jealous. It turned out that a few days ago her husband had given someone a bottle of eye cream, and Dong-baek's eye area happened to be very smooth, so the wife assumed that her husband had given the cream to Dong-baek. Not only the lawyer's wife, but for the past 6 years, Dong-baek had been enduring the disdain and jealousy of the wives in this neighborhood. The reason was simply because she was too beautiful and ran a bar by herself. This made the wives in this neighborhood unreasonably jealous of her. They even blamed Dong-baek for taking all their customers, but Dong-baek just wanted to work in peace and raise her son, so she always smiled, and a bad compromise is better than a good lawsuit with the wives. Dong-baek's beauty was not ordinary. It attracted everyone's eyes. Even though it was just a glimpse in the library, in just 3 seconds, a young man was attracted by her beauty. Yong-sik's infatuation made Dong-baek think he was a despicable pervert, but she didn't know that he was a policeman. Yong-sik was originally a capable policeman in the criminal investigation unit, but with his integrity and hot temper, every time he saw a bad guy, he wanted to take action. Therefore, in front of so many press cameras, he beat up the criminal right in front of the agency gate, which made the online community extremely happy. But his superiors were not like that. Yong-sik was demoted because he beat up the criminal and was transferred to work as a local police officer. From a member of the criminal investigation team, he now returned to a position similar to a slum police officer, but he was not pessimistic and happily accepted this punishment. Yong-sik thought that this was also a blessing for him because it would bring him unexpected sweetness. Being a security guard was not a boring job. Every day Yong-sik would just sit around and watch the village, and at night he would gather with his colleagues to drink. He originally did not like this kind of gathering, but when he saw the female owner, Yong-sik had a completely different thought. Today he was able to go to Dong-baek's pub to drink. The aftershock of love at first sight the day before had not yet subsided. Every action of hers made Yong-sik vibrate, but her landlord was also here. This man always caused trouble when drunk. Today was another day like that. This man made Dong-baek drink this glass of wine, and then he would reduce her rent. Yong-sik wanted to stop him, but unexpectedly, Dong-baek drank the whole glass of wine in one gulp, which made Yong-sik a little disappointed in this woman. But right after that, Dong-baek's words made Yong-sik think differently. Dong-baek said that here, she only sold wine, peanuts, food, and wine, but all of that did not mean he could buy her smiles and touches. The only thing he could buy here was wine. This was like a fatal sentence that pierced straight into Yong-sik's heart. His feelings for Dong-baek, which were already strong, were now even stronger. Because of that feeling, when saw the landlord's behavior, Yong-sik was very angry. Because he left, but refused to pay for the peanuts, Yong-sik snatched his wallet and brought the money to Dong-baek to pay. Yong-sik also said some cheesy flirting words that made Dong-baek a little panicked. With the advice of his colleagues, Yong-sik calmed down. He decided to make peace with the landlord. But Yong-sik, who was always upset about wrongdoings, encountered a landlord who always talked nonsense. Now in front of Yong-sik, the landlord said things that looked down on on Dong-baek's status. Yong-sik had tried to hold back, but touching the person he liked was not allowed. Then he scolded the landlord. This 7-year-old boy was really sensible. Even though he grew up without knowing who his father was, he never once wondered. Seeing everyone asking about the boy's father, but the boy himself had never been curious. Dong-baek was surprised and asked his son, but unexpectedly, the boy answered that if something that belonged to him was taken away, it would make him angry and upset. But if he didn't have it, then it would be normal and there was nothing to be sad about. The understanding of the son made Dong-baek even more heartbroken. What the boy wanted was not his father, but simply a video game console. Because of this passion, he often went to the video game console in the market, and today was no exception. Dong-baek's son was here to play again, but was caught by the woman selling gejang. Thought that this woman would drag him home to his mother, but she gave him a sumptuous meal instead. It turned out that this woman had always treated the boy well, as if she had sympathy for him. It turned out that she was Yong-sik's mother. It must be because of having such a kind mother that Yong-sik became such an honest police officer. Today, as usual, several wives in the neighborhood came to pick a fight with Dong-baek because their husbands had poured too much money into her pub. They thought that she sold other things besides alcohol. This humiliation touched Dong-baek's pride. Fortunately, Yong-sik's mother intervened. Perhaps these two were the only people in the neighborhood who understood and defended Dong-baek. For Dong-baek, Yong-sik's mother is like a powerful first friend. But Dong-baek didn't know if Yong-sik's mother would still understand Dong-baek after she found out that her son loved this single mother. While one mother was protecting another mother, this son invited another son to play video games. Yong-sik still didn't know that this young friend was Dong-baek's son. Yong-sik just happened to pass by and saw the boy arguing with his friends because he was being ridiculed for not having a father. Furthermore, these children were criticizing his own mother. Family upbringing is really important. It is the wives who make the children think so badly. Dong-baek's son is very brave. The boy stood up alone to protect his mother's honor. This made Yong-sik feel deep sympathy because his mother was also a single mother. It was also because of that his mother felt so sympathetic towards Dong-baek. Seeing the boy being bullied, Yong-sik stood up to stop him, but unexpectedly he was unable to stop him and even lost money to buy candy for the children's memorial service. Yong-sik was also criticized by Dong-baek's son for being nosy. To dispel this awkward atmosphere, Yong-sik invited Dong-baek's son to play video games. The two were so engrossed in their fun that they didn't know that the boy's mother were watching from behind. The boy turned around and immediately called mother. Only then did Yong-sik know that this boy was Dong-baek's son. Yong-sik was extremely surprised when Dong-baek glared at him and took her son away. Before leaving, she said that he was a strange uncle, which made Yong-sik a little absent-minded. He thought to himself that this love affair seemed difficult, but even more difficult things were ahead. Today, when Dong-baek was going to the market, she heard some wives in the neighborhood talking about a baseball superstar filming at the children's school. For some reason, Dong-baek ran there very quickly. The appearance of this baseball superstar took away the children's practice spot. Dong-baek's son was also very upset because of that. The boy had no idea that his baseball talent came from the man in front of him. When saw the boy mother running over, the baseball superstar's face changed color, and the way they looked at each other was not normal. In the cafe, the baseball player seemed to have lost his temper. Ever since he met Dong-baek and the boy again, his mind had been in chaos. Without waiting for him to guess any further, Dong-baek revealed it frankly. She said that this boy was his son. It turned out that they had been lovers before. Because Dong-baek was abandoned by her mother when she was young, she treasured this love very much. She kept even the smallest things, typically the old bracelet he gave her that she still wore until now. He had promised to be her father, husband, and friend for the rest of her life. But very quickly, he had a wife and child with a famous actress. Men's words were really meant to be heard and then ignored. Seeing that he seemed panicked and worried about having a child, Dong-baek lied and said that she was married. Her husband treated her and her child very well, so he didn't need to worry. Hearing that, he breathed a sigh of relief. This man is really bad, but Dong-baek has loved him since then. After today, that love should probably be thrown away. While she was in a daze, she saw the wives in the neighborhood. They made up stories about the pub running a shady business to take money from their husbands. So now they surrounded the bar staff to find fault. Dong-baek tried to stop them, but they took advantage of the situation to criticize even more. Yong-sik passed by and saw the injustice, so he tried to stop them. Unexpectedly, he was pushed away mercilessly by the wives. They even blamed him for meddling in other people's business and being nosy. He really had no right to interfere here. These old women were criticizing this beautiful girl. They thought that Dong-baek had used used her beauty to do inappropriate things in the neighborhood. This made Dong-baek cry in resentment. Suddenly, a 7-year-old boy jumped out from nowhere and used strong words that if someone dared to hit his mother again, he would hit their child every day until nose bled. A 7-year-old boy just like that protected his mother. This boy's boldness really impressed Yong-sik. This boy was really like him when he was young. He sat at Dong-baek's bar at night and listened to her scolding her son. No matter how much she was insulted and scolded, she always taught her son to be polite and not to be rude like today. But all he wanted to do was protect his mother. Even though he was only 7 years old, he knew that everyone hated his mother. He said that in this world, he was the only one who liked his mother. Everyone else hated her. So other than protecting his mother, he didn't know what to do. Even though sometimes he felt very tired of acting angry like that. Every word son said made Dong-baek even more heartbroken. She couldn't hold back her tears. What should she do with this son who understood things so well? Yong-sik sat by and witnessed the whole scene of their mother-son relationship, feeling a little sympathetic in his heart. Since then he had always followed Dong-baek to secretly protect her. Tonight as usual, Dong-baek went to the station where she belonged, but she saw Yong-sik following her. Even though she criticized him for being nosy, he still followed her. Indeed, in love, the one who is more persistent and not afraid of hardships wins. Actually, this train station is the familiar place that Dong-baek goes to whenever she is sad. She said that her dream is to become a staff member who stores and returns lost items to train passengers, because only there can she receive smiles and words of thanks. At that time, she will be able to smile happily and contentedly. Such simple things that anyone can have in life, yet they are the dream of this beautiful woman. Hearing that Yong-sik felt a little sad. It seemed that his feelings for Dong-baek were growing day by day without stopping. But if there is no catalyst, how can it be called love? After Dong-baek had finished sadness, she returned. On the way home, it was raining heavily, so Yong-sik held an umbrella for her like a high-class bodyguard. People say that love is shown through the way they hold an umbrella for their lover, but Yong-sik's excesses really scared people. After the rain stopped, Yong-sik froze for a moment and then said, "Let's be friends." This moment made Dong-baek suddenly laugh. For the past 6 years, no man had come to ask to be her friend like him. Someone who was originally envied by the whole neighborhood suddenly had someone who wanted to be her friend. The reason he wanted to be friends was even more special, because he wanted to protect her. He did not hesitate to stop the wives in the neighborhood so that they would not hurt Dong-baek. But they said he had no right, so from now on, if they were friends, did he have the right to interfere and protect her? His adorable sincerity made Dong-baek very happy. Just like that, Yong-sik took another step towards Dong-baek. Unexpectedly, when got home, Dong-baek met her ex-lover standing in front of her house. Because she had lied that she was married, and also to chase him away, so Dong-baek said that Yong-sik was her husband. She grabbed Yong-sik's hand and walked away. This made Yong-sik's heart not just want to be friends anymore. Originally Dong-baek only intended to borrow Yong-sik to chase away his ex-lover, but coincidentally, the whole neighborhood was out on the street at this time. The landlord and several husbands in the neighborhood were stunned, their hearts breaking when they saw the most beautiful girl in the area being taken away by this policeman. For Yong-sik, it was like a blessing. He happily started the day. But for the whole neighborhood, it was a hot topic of discussion. People rumored that she was the one who seduced Yong-sik. Yong-sik is single, yet a single mother like Dong-baek seduces him. This made Dong-baek consciously avoid him, but Yong-sik was captivated by Dong-baek's beauty. Just like that, he followed Dong-baek for half a day. He suddenly confessed to her, and his eagerness made Dong-baek a little worried. Because of love, Yong-sik did not hesitate to help Dong-baek erase the bad words that the drinking guests had left on the wall. Although Dong-baek was also helpless, Yong-sik was still determined to pursue her. Unexpectedly, while wiping away the vulgar words, he saw the handwriting of a strange line. Feeling bad, he took out his phone to take a picture. It was not for nothing that Yong-sik became afraid. The reason was because there had been a series of murders before. At the crime scene, the murderer always left a piece of paper with the same words as the one on the wall now. Because he did not want to scare Dong-baek, he deliberately covered up the words. Then, he hurriedly ran to the police station to get the photo on his phone and compare it with the photos left by previous cases. The police station chief did not believe it because Yong-sik was often fooled, but when he saw the two identical lines of text, he could not help but worry. The murderer had not been arrested yet. Thinking about this made the police station chief lose his temper and hurriedly wanted to go to Dong-baek's bar. Yong-sik tried to stop him because thought Dong-baek had a connection to the murderer. But the police station chief would not listen. There were 2 reporters who had come to Dong-baek's bar. When she saw them, she quickly invited them to leave. Seeing that the situation seemed unusual, Dong-baek's son quickly went to find Yong-sik. Not knowing why the boy put his trust in Yong-sik, the boy asked Yong-sik to protect his mother. When Yong-sik came to stop the 2 reporters from bothering Dong-baek, he found out that she was the remaining witness to the previous series of murders. But Dong-baek really didn't want to get involved in this matter because they had also come here that day. The police had been stationed here for a whole month just because she was a witness, making no one dare to come to her shop. Seeing her little child without any new toys to play with made her heart ache, so she decided to have nothing to do with them anymore. She chased away all the police and reporters. She just wanted to have a peaceful life, earning money to raise her son. Compared to being noticed by the killer, not being able to earn money to raise her child was even scarier. After hearing her story, Yong-sik no longer hesitated to stand up and stop the 2 reporters. He even threatened them that if they didn't leave, he would smash their cameras. To thank Yong-sik for his help earlier, Dong-baek sat down with him and drank some wine by the river. It turned out that she had only caught a glimpse of the killer's back, but hearing that made Yong-sik scared. Dong-baek asked the police chief to keep this a secret because she didn't want people around her to see her son as the son of an unlucky woman, because everyone who met her had always said that she was very unlucky and that her life would never be happy. Whatever was said for a long time became true, making her think that what they said might be her fate. Yong-sik immediately dismissed everything because to him, she was better than anything else in the world. His adorable naivety was really heartwarming. Even though he had been rejected by Dong-baek many times, Yong-sik still did not give up. He still took her home. He even showed her the strange writing. This made Dong-baek very surprised. In order to take this opportunity to protect the person he loved, Yong-sik stood up and took responsibility to protect Dong-baek and her son. This made Dong-baek feel very embarrassed. Right now, Dong-baek's ex-lover was still waiting outside. Ever since he found out he had another son, he remembered Dong-baek more. Since the past, the name Dong-baek had always been deeply imprinted in his mind. Just like that, he did not hesitate to go to Dong-baek's restaurant to eat like someone who had been starving for a week. Moreover, he even pretended to remind her to take care of her son and not let her son starve because of her love and dating. Seeing her burn hand, he was so worried that he panicked. It was obvious that he still had feelings for her. This will become an obstacle in the love story of Yong-sik and Dong-baek. However, this policeman does not know anything. To express long-standing admiration, Yong-sik also brought a pen and paper to ask for an autograph of Dong-baek's ex-lover. Because this is Yong-sik's idol, he also added some crazy cheering dance moves. Moreover, he conveniently asked to take a picture with his idol. Dong-baek already thought he was not normal, but now she sees him as crazy. Dong-baek's ex-lover thinks Yong-sik is very rustic and was about to criticize him, but Dong-baek responded. She said that was his charm. Yong-sik was very moved when he heard that. For Yong-sik, the relationship between him and Dong-baek also progressed a bit. In the dark night, the female pub employee had just returned from a bath, but she carelessly went to sleep without locking the door. She was carelessly scrolling on her phone, completely unaware of the dangerous shadow behind her. The next morning, Yong-sik and the station chief went to check the writing again, but it had been erased and could no longer be seen. He planned to hide Dong-baek so she wouldn't panic, but she found out in the end. Because was so worried about her, Yong-sik didn't hesitate to scold the police chief repeatedly. His obviousness made the police chief realize that he liked Dong-baek. Then they went to find her landlord to review the security camera footage. Unexpectedly, he was stingy, so all of those were fake. The camera was just for show. Even the police were stumped. There was a man here who, although he was very upset when he found out he had a child, kept following the boy. This man probably still had humanity. He used the excuse of visiting his old school and kept caring for his son. He knew that the boy refused to go to China for training because the boy was afraid that mother would spend too much money. That made his fatherly instincts rise. The feeling of guilt and sympathy for his son urged him to want to make it up to his son. Plus, seeing that the boy's strengths, habits, and interests were exactly like his, he felt even more guilty. This made him spend money to sponsor Dong-baek's son to go to China. At this time, Yong-sik also heard this. He probably understood part of the story. Dong-baek knew the story and felt even more heartbroken because her son was too understanding, making her feel like a helpless mother. But the biggest concern now was not Dong-baek's ex-lover, but that evil murderer. The words in Dong-baek's shop were burned black, proving that the murderer had snuck in here. Fearing that Dong-baek would be in danger, Yong-sik followed her all day, which made her a little uncomfortable. Dong-baek was afraid of the rumors from the wives in the neighborhood. Seeing that Dong-baek kept avoiding him just because of the rumors in the neighborhood, Yong-sik was very angry. He continued to confess his feelings, saying that if she was afraid of rumors he would declare to the whole world that he really liked her. Moreover, she was his pride. Dong-baek had never heard these words before. Her life has always been someone's shame, even her ex-lover. He was also hesitant to walk next to her, but this police officer kept shouting this. Unlike the silly Yong-sik in the neighborhood, everyone was annoyed with her. This vegetable seller even sold her vegetables at a higher price than normal people. Of course, this made Yong-sik extremely upset. He blamed the neighbors for her, but Dong-baek stopped him from meddling anymore. She didn't want to hear them say she was a fox who seduced him. Hearing this, Yong-sik was extremely angry. He rushed off to deal with this matter by himself. Meanwhile, his mother was proudly telling the neighbors that my son was flirting with a female lawyer. Suddenly Yong-sik came over and shouted that Dong-baek didn't seduce him. He was the one who seduced her. Even though these women told him to stop and run away, Yong-sik didn't understand. He shouted even louder that the person he liked was Dong-baek. At this time, Yong-sik's mother also came out, surprising both him and Dong-baek. Only now did Dong-baek know that her first and only friend was Yong-sik's mother. Only after his stupid confession did he have to endure his mother's anger. Dong-baek felt that she had lost her rare friend, so she sat down and drank alone sadly. Unexpectedly, her ex-lover came over at this time, and he questioned her why she opened a pub. Dong-baek remembered when she was still living with him. Because of his compliments, she chose to open a pub. Selling a bottle of wine made her 3,000 won. To earn money to raise her child, she would do any lowly job. This made him even more heartbroken, and it could be seen that he truly loved her. And he sincerely hopes that she can live better than she does now, because she deserves a better life. He was feeling sad at the door of the pub when he accidentally met Yong-sik again. Seeing Yong-sik, he warned Yong-sik not to tease Dong-baek anymore. This made Yong-sik a little upset. Going inside, Yong-sik saw Dong-baek was very sad. She told him that she felt very ashamed. When she was in school, she was the only orphan. Now she is also the only single mother in this town. She had a failed life when her son had to worry about 480,000 won. Dong-baek felt humiliated. Hearing these things, Yong-sik was very heartbroken. He kept cheering her up. Thanks to Yong-sik's comforting words, Dong-baek could no longer hold back and burst into tears. No one had ever said those words to her before. She had no faith in anyone. Yong-sik said that he was different from her lover. He would never let her and her son cry. Yong-sik's heartfelt confession really touched Dong-baek's heart. She said that if he kept doing that, she would like him. What should she do then? At this moment, Yong-sik was so agitated that he couldn't say anything. Maybe in real life, there really is someone who is willing to become a miracle for another person. It was very difficult for Yong-sik to confess to Dong-baek, and their relationship was a little better when the next obstacle appeared. Both of them looked happy. Dong-baek's son did not hesitate to ask Yong-sik, "If you liked my mother, right? If you did, then don't come to my mother's pub anymore, because I hated all men who liked my mother." The reason was that even though those men said they liked his mother, no one dared to stand up for his mother when their wives came to see them. Even the father was the same. No one thought these words would come from a boy who was only 7 years old. His premature maturity made adults feel heartbroken. Yong-sik said that he was not like them. He would do things his own way. But this was not easy. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship was probably an eternal problem. Seeing the son she had raised with great difficulty now falling in love with a single mother. Moreover, the gossipy neighbors made Yong-sik's mother even more troubled. Dong-baek herself was also very troubled. Although she and Yong-sik had never had anything going on, now it was even more impossible for anything to happen. It was also because in the past she had also experienced such a feeling. That was the feeling of being hated by the mother of the person she loved. Thinking back to when she was in love with her ex-lover, she had also met his mother. Because she was an orphan and not good or talented in any way, so her ex-lover's mother used the worst words to make Dong-baek stop following this woman son. To this woman, Dong-baek was like a parasitic creature. That's what haunted Dong-baek until now. But Yong-sik is not like her ex-lover. No matter how much his mother scolded or threatened him, he still loved and protected Dong-baek. Dong-baek. His mother asked him to stay away from her for 2 months before he knew his true feelings. But he argued with his mother that he couldn't do what she said. For the past 30 years his mother had always let him do what he wanted, so this time he asked her to let him do what he wanted for once. He then ran away before his mother could beat him. His mother cried in anger. Dong-baek always thought that she was the one who carried bad luck with her. But a few years ago, thanks to luck, she narrowly escaped death. It turned out that she had known the last victim of that series of murders. That day, Dong-baek went to get a beauty treatment. Because she was in the infrared machine, she did not know that during those 7 minutes of beauty treatment, a murder had taken place right next to her. When the murderer was about to leave, he discovered Dong-baek, but fortunately, the door of the beauty machine could not be opened at that time. The fire alarm suddenly rang, causing the murderer to run away in shock. But that year, the news that she was a living witness spread everywhere, which was the reason why the murderer came back to harm her. Because he was worried about her, even though was beaten by mother Yong-sik, still secretly followed her home to protect her safety. He suddenly heard a strange sound. He chased after the person hiding in the dark. Finally, he caught a strange person. This woman gave her 7-year-old daughter a bag of clothes, cakes, and milk. Then the mother told the daughter not to say her name if anyone asked. That was how Dong-baek's mother abandoned her decades ago. But 27 years later, her mother suddenly appeared at the police station, causing the wound in her heart to bleed again. If her mother abandoned her in the past, then she should abandon her mother now. Dong-baek said she didn't know this person and turned away. Unexpectedly, just as she was about to leave, this woman urinated right in the police station. So after all these years of abandoning Dong-baek, she suffered from a degenerative neurological disease. Not knowing what to do, Dong-baek took her mother to the bus station. She still couldn't sympathize with her mother. She was also a mother. Before just leaving her son alone for 10 minutes made her tremble with fear. Why did her mother abandon her all these years? Thinking of that, Dong-baek left her mother there and left. But she herself was a good person. She couldn't abandon her mother, so she brought her mother back to her house. In just a week of staying with her mother, Dong-baek knew how her mother had lived all these years. Even though her mother had lost memory to the point of being stupid, her mother still got up every day to clean the house and then said goodbye to her. That was the habit of maids. Today, her mother called Dong-baek over and gave her money, just a very small amount of money, but told her to take it to buy a house. Dong-baek still didn't know how to treat her mother. Today was Dong-baek's birthday, but she didn't seem interested in it. She still went to work at the pub and even brought her mother along. This became the topic of gossip among the neighbors. Only Yong-sik's mother still tried his best to protect Dong-baek. Dong-baek was a strong woman. Perhaps that was what moved Yong-sik's mother. But Dong-baek didn't think so. The appearance of her absent-minded mother once again highlighted her unhappiness. It made her feel that she didn't deserve happiness, especially happiness with a good person like Yong-sik. At this time, Yong-sik brought a lot of things for the elderly. He ran to Dong-baek's shop and said he missed her, making the people in the shop think he was crazy. However, his kindness and goodness made Dong-baek even more unwilling to fall deeper into this feeling. She didn't want a good person like him to fall into a bomb crater like her. Dong-baek used the most heartless words to cut off Yong-sik's feelings. She even heartlessly rejected his feelings outright. Perhaps it really hurt him, so he left immediately. At this point, Dong-baek had truly lost hope for a happy future. She didn't have the courage to give herself a happy life because she felt guilty about herself. Everyone loves their birthday, but she hates it. Her birthday was supposed to be in winter, but instead it was summer, because that was the day her mother abandoned her at the orphanage. Her complaints really touched her mother's heart. At this time, Dong-baek's mother suddenly said that I would do everything my daughter needed to do for my daughter, and then I would leave. Even so, Dong-baek still could not forgive her mother. It was her birthday, but Dong-baek considered it an unlucky day. But it was not only her bad luck. Dong-baek's landlord accidentally took the pub waitress out one day, but the girl found out his weakness and threatened him many times. This made him have to see a psychologist. Too upset, he went to Dong-baek's pub again, got drunk, and grabbed her hand. Yong-sik saw this act of harassment by the landlord. Yong-sik got angry and rushed over to kick the landlord, then jumped in and grabbed his hair and punched him. In the end, the two of them rushed to fight. Dong-baek could only stand to the side in fear. The fight also came to an end. It was unclear who won and who lost. The landlord only saw a tooth broken, so Yong-sik was taken to the police station. At the police station, both of them still couldn't be at peace. In order to protect Dong-baek's honor, even though was about to go to jail, Yong-sik still didn't say a word. At the pub, Dong-baek was also very worried about Yong-sik. She was thinking about whether to go to the station to explain for him when she saw a strange arrow on the floor. Following it, Dong-baek felt like she was lost in a fairy garden. Knowing that Dong-baek wouldn't like her birthday, so Yong-sik threw a real birthday party. He even left a note saying that from now on, he would make every day her birthday. What he did moved Dong-baek deeply. Seeing her mother go upstairs, she could only blame her in tears. It was because of her mother's abandonment that she didn't dare to hold her head high when she went out. Now that her mother had returned, she didn't dare to give herself the right to love. Most of all, to love someone as wonderful as Yong-sik. Yong-sik's feelings were the most precious feelings she had ever seen. Thinking of this, she immediately went to get a notebook and boldly brought the notebook straight to the police station. This notebook was not an ordinary notebook. To the landlord and the husbands in the neighborhood, it was probably equivalent to a death note. She loudly read out the times she had been harassed by the landlord. She wanted to sue this landlord. In front of the police and the landlord's wife, Dong-baek was no longer the patient girl of the past 6 years. Every word she said made the listener's anger increase, to the point that Yong-sik just wanted to fight to the death with the landlord. Knowing that she came to protect him, Yong-sik was so moved that he cried. But the landlord refused to admit his mistake, even to death, and even dragged his lawyer wife into the mix. The lawyer wife asked Dong-baek, "If you knew that I was a lawyer, this could be a fierce battle." The wife's words made Dong-baek a little scared, but then she gave Dong-baek her business card and said that if there was any problem, contact her. She would help Dong-baek win the lawsuit. It turned out that the wife was also very disappointed in her husband. She would help Dong-baek sue her husband without taking any money. On the way home, Dong-baek followed Yong-sik's mother into the house. She already knew that Dong-baek had feelings for her son, but then she also gave the two of them time to come up with a final answer. Time will bring the answer. A mother would never let her child raise another person's child. This was indeed very difficult. It seemed that Dong-baek would probably give up, so she went to eat dumplings with Yong-sik. But she said that she could not have a passionate love with him because she had tried and failed in the past. This made Yong-sik understand that he had been rejected again, so he could only sit there sadly eating dumplings. Unexpectedly, Dong-baek's intention was not to refuse. She said that could they not be like fire but just warm? Dong-baek's words made Yong-sik almost choke. So after all, with all his sincerity, he finally succeeded in making Dong-baek fall in love with him. At this moment, Yong-sik felt like he couldn't breathe. His heart felt like it was about to explode. On the way home, in order for her to stop rejecting him, he even asked to make a promise with Dong-baek. The next morning, to prevent the notebook from being stolen, the landlord's wife helped Dong-baek make a soft copy and told her to tell the whole neighborhood about this notebook. It was truly like a death note for the men here. Everyone was worried about their lives before their wives. After the landlord failed to steal the notebook, he made an appointment to meet Dong-baek. She said that he just needed to sincerely apologize to her. After hesitating for a long time, he finally managed to say sorry, but the apology was not very sincere, so Dong-baek made an appointment with him in court. Walking on Dong-baek's street like a celebrity, her actions suddenly made the wives change their attitudes. Everyone praised her. Since found out he had a child and met Dong-baek again, Dong-baek's ex-lover could no longer stay in one place without taking action. Plus his wife's unreasonableness. The daughter had just been born, but she wanted to study abroad. His wife's unreasonableness and uselessness made him miss Dong-baek even more. He looked back at his son's school. The more he looked at this boy, the more he saw that the boy looked like him. His greed arose again. He went to Dong-baek's pub and seemed to want to get back with her. At this time, Yong-sik also appeared just in time. Because he was worried about his girlfriend's safety, Yong-sik had someone install a security camera in the pub. Seeing Dong-baek's ex-lover here, Yong-sik made an appointment to meet him privately and frankly affirmed that I was the one who brought happiness to Dong-baek and her son. Yong-sik tells Dong-baek's ex-lover that you knows your place and should give up. Although he had lived a terrible life, his nature was not too bad. But it was because of him that Dong-baek had a bad impression of men. The obsession with her ex-lover really affected her, so Dong-baek kept comparing Yong-sik. She thought that all men were the same. After hearing those words, Yong-sik felt a little sad. He thought that if Dong-baek did not trust him and considered him as bad as her ex-lover, then she should not open her heart to him, because he was not like that bad person and did not want to be like that bad person. His anger made Dong-baek realize that she was wrong to compare him to another man, but as long as she held his hand and apologized, he would stop being angry. Yong-sik was so blindly in love that he had no shame left. However, this happiness happiness was being threatened. Today, after going grocery shopping with Dong-baek, Yong-sik felt like he saw something terrible. So he quickly hugged Dong-baek, wanting to prevent her from seeing. It turned out that the murderer had come looking for her again. Somehow, he had left a creepy red line on the wall, saying that he had told her not to make a fool of herself, that he had been following her since that day. Every word the murderer said made Yong-sik extremely worried. Even though there was a camera installed, the murderer was very cunning. He knew the blind spot of the lens and then disabled the security camera. These clues showed that the murderer was definitely very familiar with this pub, but the camera had just appeared yesterday, so he must have been here when it was installed. Even though it was an important piece of evidence, Dong-baek herself did not want to see that line any longer. If this matter spread again, the negative comments from before would be directed at her again. This made her worried about her son. Dong-baek hurriedly went to find her son. Because wanted to protect Dong-baek, so Yong-sik asked to follow her, but she wanted him to paint the wall for her. Although she tried to act fine, when she passed through a pedestrian tunnel and saw a drunk man on the side of the road, she was so scared that she clenched her hands and did not dare to continue walking. Luckily, at this moment, Yong-sik suddenly appeared. Because he could not bear to let Dong-baek go in such danger, he always followed her and witnessed her fear. Seeing Dong-baek always trying to act strong made Yong-sik even angrier because he saw his helplessness. He stopped and held Dong-baek's hand and wiped the sweat off her hand. He told her to never try to act strong again because from now on, because he would be the one to run to protect her at any time. But who was the killer? In order to investigate the suspect, Yong-sik left all the hard work to the police chief and sat down to study the footage recorded by the camera. He meticulously wrote down the names of everyone present that day, including Dong-baek's mother. When he returned to the police station, the police chief reminded him to write down the names of the people who installed the cameras. Only then did Yong-sik remember that he had met the landlord at the camera shop that day. Then when he went with the shop owner to Dong-baek's house, he met the gossipy neighbors. Then the landlord's wife, and finally the name of Dong-baek's ex-lover. He wrote down every name, but even after writing them all down, he still couldn't find anything. He swore to himself that he would catch that bastard and make this guy a laughingstock for the world. Dong-baek's mother looked as if she had never been absent-minded. The mother reminded Dong-baek that everyone seemed to be very kind and that Dong-baek should be careful with her own trust. With that, Dong-baek's mother got in the car and left as if she had never been sick. Dong-baek had no choice but to return to the pub alone. But after the horrible things that happened now, when she entered the pub, everything made her feel uneasy. She checked every corner of the pub. Right now, while she was peeling onions, suddenly, there was the sound of someone walking in from behind. It used to be a sound she liked to hear, but now she was extremely scared to hear it. Things became even more difficult. Today, a strange fire broke out at Dong-baek's son's school. When arrived, Dong-baek's son was no longer there. She panicked and ran to the police station to search everywhere. When she returned, she saw her son sitting with her ex-lover. It turned out that the two of them had gone to eat abalone together. Only then did Dong-baek get rid of the anxiety in her heart. She could no longer stand and sat collapsed. That night, Yong-sik helped her fix the door. He wanted her to rest for a while, but she wanted to protect this pub herself. Although she tried to act strong, she really broke down after today's incident. Yong-sik immediately grabbed her hand. Seeing her fear, he was even more determined to catch the murderer. Because Dong-baek was too worried about her son and to continue her business, she decided to move to another city. Her escape made everyone in the neighborhood unhappy. Not the husbands, but the wives, who were always jealous and made things difficult for her. Now that they knew she was moving away, they felt guilty for what they had done. Her move also made Yong-sik's mother unhappy because she had always thought of Dong-baek as her daughter. The concern of the people around her touched Dong-baek because in the past 6 years here, despite all the difficulties, they still cared for her. This made her a little reluctant, but her son's future was still the most important. Because her son even wanted to end her relationship with Yong-sik, because when she left, this relationship would be difficult to maintain. Of course, her words only earned Yong-sik's angry. He knew clearly about her feelings for him, so no matter what the cost, he was determined to keep Dong-baek. To do that, he had to catch the murderer before she left. So he put all the small cases aside and focused on investigating the murderer. Yong-sik discovered something unusual fuel in an abandoned house. Then from the fire the day before, he also found a suspicious lighter. Was it all related? These things made Yong-sik think a lot. If Yong-sik's love was a passionate love of youth, then what was the love of ex-lover Dong-baek? Perhaps it was the regret of the past. Too frustrated with the sight of his childish wife asking for money day and night, he remembered the memories with Dong-baek even more. Now, because of the appearance of his son, he was even more bored with the current situation. To escape the boredom from his wife, he withdrew a lot of money and brought it to Dong-baek. He even hid it in a box of abalone, but in the end, Dong-baek still discovered it. He thought she would throw the money straight at his face, but Dong-baek accepted the 30 million won. Thinking about the past, she worked hard to serve him, so this money was considered payment, but saying that her tears fell again. Seeing the person he once loved deeply cry suddenly, the feeling that had been dormant for so long arose in his heart. He brazenly said, "Come back." He said he would give up everything for her. It was unknown whether this was an old love that came without being asked, or because he was on the verge of divorce that he wanted to get back with Dong-baek. But all of this was caught by Yong-sik. But unlike usual naivety, Yong-sik strongly called Dong-baek back to him in front of his rival. He said that she was not someone who would let others decide her life. She should choose the path she wanted. She should be strong. Yong-sik's words of encouragement gave Dong-baek courage. She told her ex-lover to let go of her hand, otherwise he would surely die. That was the first time she firmly rejected someone. Dong-baek's choice made Yong-sik extremely proud. She wondered if her choice was right or not. But the trouble was not over yet. Despite being rejected many times, Dong-baek's ex-lover still did not give up. He made another appointment with Dong-baek and introduced her to a promising school for her son to attend. He even said he would pay all the tuition, but this made Dong-baek feel controlled. It turned out that he gave her 30 million won so that he could dictate her life and that of her son. But in the end, he only wanted the best for his son. He was afraid that once everything was exposed, the boy would not be able to withstand the backlash from the online community, which would be truly terrible. However, Dong-baek firmly refused and denied his identity as father of her son. But he was also very stubborn and blamed Dong-baek that if she had not left on her own, things would not have been as chaotic as they were now. But perhaps he had forgotten that the reason for their breakup was not because of his mother, but because of him. Dong-baek's ex-lover was originally a country boy, but thanks to his talent for baseball, he became more and more famous. While Dong-baek only knew how to stay at home and do housework every day, he kept moving forward. Therefore, the distance between them grew further and further. He himself, when standing at the peak of his fame, was easily swayed by outside temptations. The climax of the breakdown was when Dong-baek learned that she was pregnant. To test him, she took out a fake pregnancy test. Unexpectedly, he was very calm because he thought that he and she were too young to accept this fact. But Dong-baek argued that there were many people out there who were also very young, but they were still successful as fathers. He was 27 years old, but said he wasn't ready. It wasn't that he wasn't ready to have a child, he just wasn't ready for her. Dong-baek left so that the child in her womb wouldn't have to endure heartbreaking words. She also intended to give up this child, but the love of a mother and the bond between her and the child made her want to become strong to protect her child. When heard everything, her ex-lover completely collapsed. She told him to never see her son again and never step foot in their lives again. Dong-baek closed all the doors to the past. She wanted her and her child to move forward into the future and wouldn't foolishly return to that terrible past. Her ex-lover thought that she couldn't be happy because she was influenced by Yong-sik. But Dong-baek responded very decisively that Yong-sik was the one who always said she deserved to be happy. Now Dong-baek seemed to have become a different person. After shedding all the weakness and self-consciousness she had carried with her for the past few years, she looked at life with a confident gaze. When got home, she saw Yong-sik waiting for her. Yong-sik saw her and scolded her and asked her why she was out so late. Did she know it was dangerous? Seeing him, she felt more motivated. Dong-baek said that she would not let herself be bullied anymore. The one who was bullied was weak, so she would not do it again. Dong-baek was determined to face everything herself. After saying that she would go say goodbye and roll out the red carpet for guests. From now on, she would welcome all guests in the world. Dong-baek's confidence and joy were like a sweet light shining straight into Yong-sik's heart. He was so happy that he went crazy. He shouted, "How could she be so beautiful?" So happy that Dong-baek immediately ran over, held his hand and kissed him on the cheek. The gentle kiss made Yong-sik extremely excited. This policeman had just said yesterday that he would not touch Dong-baek, but just one kiss from her. He had the courage to place a kiss on her lips. The two of them finally held hands, marking a love that blossomed like camellias in spring. Dong-baek Dong-baek seemed to want to change her current appearance. Now, Dong-baek seemed to be living as herself. She put on gorgeous makeup and wore a red dress and high heels. She was already outstanding, now she shined even brighter. Dong-baek not only changed the way she dressed, but also bought an old motorbike, even though she didn't know how to ride it. But the joy didn't last long before sadness came again. This time it wasn't Dong-baek's sadness but her 8-year-old son. Dong-baek's ex-lover, despite being warned many times by her, came to visit her son today. Seeing the boy's scratched face, he did not hesitate to run over and ask. It turned out that the boy had gotten into a fight because his friends had ridiculed him as a man with 2 fathers. Hearing that Dong-baek's ex-lover could not control himself, he thought he was teaching this children, but unexpectedly, he took the children to a buffet to strengthen their relationship. But not only did the boy not eat, the boy also burst into tears because this 8-year-old boy already knew that the man in front of him was his father. Perhaps he had not had a father since birth, and growing up with a mother who was always bullied, so the boy became a precocious boy. There was no need for adults to speak. Just from the gestures and expressions of this man, the boy was enough to understand everything. Even though he was only 8 years old, every word the boy said made this man's heart ache. The boy said that if he had known about the boy's existence, he would have done the right thing. The boy asked him why you didn't choose to stay with my mother. Because of him, every time the word father was mentioned, the boy's mother would cry. That's why this 8-year-old child hated his father. Even though suffered so much, this man was probably still a good father. He still came to fix his son's clothes. Moreover, he told the boy not to grow up too fast and to live carefree according to age, because the boy's understanding was his failure. Yong-sik saw all of these things. He was also a boy without a father, so he understood Dong-baek's son's mind very well now. Because of that, Yong-sik chose to step back. He didn't like Dong-baek's ex-lover, but the boy was different. No matter what, a child always longed for love from father. Therefore, he didn't want to take away their father-son relationship. Instead, he gave them that private time. When he got home, he loved his mother even more. Because even though he didn't have a father, his life had never been disadvantaged. His mother took everything upon herself. His mother only dared to wear his old clothes she saved for him. That was like a knife stabbing Yong-sik's heart. On this side, Dong-baek, after knowing that her son knew the truth, she felt even more that she had made her son grow up too quickly. That night, she made an appointment with her ex-lover to clarify everything. It was true that she had waited for him, but only 2 years after breaking up, he had a new family and children. Her waiting was probably the last stupid thing she did for him, but now that he had come back, it was too late. There would never be a return between them. His wife also knew about this, so she would probably come here soon to cause trouble. If he continues to come here, who knows how bad things will be. On this side, under the provocation of Dong-baek's mother, Yong-sik, who was trying to act calm and noble, was extremely upset when he saw his lover eating noodles with her ex-husband. But this provocation was completely effective. Yong-sik went to find Dong-baek's ex-lover and scolded him for being a bastard. Yong-si also told him to leave and not bother Dong-baek and her son anymore. After that, Yong-sik ordered Dong-baek not to hang out with this man anymore. Furthermore, she was not allowed to let this man come to her pub anymore. So Dong-baek ran over and took Yong-sik's hand and left, leaving her ex-lover standing there alone. People who always act nice are sometimes the dangerous ones. This female bar employee's name is Go-wun. She is indeed not simple. This girl not only always finds ways to extort money from the landlord, but also lies a lot. She also discovered 30 million won in Dong-baek's abalone barrel. Speaking of which, it seems that her personal history is also suspicious. Today on the way home, this girl met a stranger feeding a cat. This stranger is the person the police are looking for. There is a high possibility that he is the murderer. But Go-wun does not know anything and is not afraid. She even came to live with this mysterious man. Perhaps her life is very difficult, so just because she could sleep in a warm place for one night, she was late for work the next morning. When Go-wun arrived, Dong-baek and her mother were on their way to their son's school. Dong-baek was a poor girl because her mother abandoned her. She had to grow up in an orphanage. The label of orphan has since become her name. They are also human, but people discriminate against children. Orphans are thus pushed to the edge of life. Next to that is the label of the bar owner's daughter. The girl with the name Go-wun is simply because her mother's bar is called that. Those two fates are similar. Whenever something negative happens, the first people to be suspected are those two children. Simply because one has no parents, the other has a mother who runs a bar. Such social stratification has haunted Dong-baek until now. She is afraid that her son will suffer the same fate, so that is the reason she hesitates to go. But once again, her negative thoughts were dispelled by Yong-sik. Thanks to his words of encouragement, she had the courage to go cheer for her son's baseball match with her mother and Go-wun. Wherever the three women went, everyone was watching. While everyone had big cameras and camcorders, she only had a small phone. Suddenly a drone flew in from somewhere and filmed the entire match. Her ex-lover was also there, but he could do nothing but sit still and watch his son being bullied by the opposing team. The reason was because the opposing team had the son of a coach, and Dong-baek's son's team was constantly being bullied. With the boy's personality, he did not hesitate to punch the opponent. The situation suddenly became chaotic like never before, and the coach, the father of the child, even took action to discipline Dong-baek's son. This made her unable to stay still. Her ex-lover was also very angry, but he was surrounded by fans. His presence here was already redundant. Because of this fame, it would cause unpredictable consequences later. Because there was no need for him to handle it, Yong-sik wearing glasses walked in with a drone in his hand full of majesty. Yong-sik entered the field under the watchful eyes of hundreds of people. He slapped the opposing boy straight away. This was a slap for daring to insult his friend. The coach's father intended to scold and ask Yong-sik what right he had to intervene. So he stood in the middle of the crowd and loudly introduced himself as Dong-baek's son's father. From then on, the boy felt that Yong-sik was like a hero who would always appear at the last minute. Because there was a camera recording the incident and Yong-sik was the local police, he successfully handled everything and admiration of Dong-baek. Dong-baek's ex-lover also had her own way to intimidate the coach, but his help behind the scenes was not impressive in the eyes of the son. For an 8-year-old boy, the drone was probably more interesting. Yong-sik's sincerity and understanding really won the boy's heart. At this moment, Go-wun was indeed not ordinary, but she did not expect that the man she was clinging to had such a scary wife. The landlord's lawyer wife made an appointment with her. With the wife's intelligence and authority, Go-wun was truly no match. She had no intention of destroying their family. She just wanted to change her life and become rich in one step. But this husband was nothing more than a useless person, so the lawyer's wife really hoped that Go-wun could take him away. The landlord listened dumbly. It turned out that he was nothing more than scrap metal that needed to be thrown away, because no one would buy him even if he sold him cheap. Even though he never crossed the line, what he did was beyond the tolerance of a wife. With all the intelligence, status, and money, his wife's pride was trampled by him, so there would be no forgiveness for a traitor like him. Dong-baek's childhood friend in the past was Go-wun. With Dong-baek's honest and tolerant feelings, Go-wun pulled her feet out of the mud of deception. But her former boss kept looking for her, and when he found her, he came to bother her. Go-wun was really pitiful. Her mother opened a bar and then threw her out into the street like a homeless child. Since then, because she had no family, she was despised to the extreme. This man also treated her like trash, thinking that even if she died, no one would care. But he was wrong, because right behind Go-wun was Dong-baek. If he continued to provoke Go-wun, Dong-baek would chase him away. Unexpectedly, this guy was so unreasonable that he dragged Go-wun out into the middle of the street and beat her. This really touched Dong-baek's bottom line. Without waiting for Yong-sik to intervene, Dong-baek immediately hit this guy hard on the head. While hitting him, she cursed him. The Dong-baek of the past was dead. In front of everyone's eyes, there was no longer a girl who still smiled, even when being oppressed. The final fight ended at the police station. For Dong-baek's safety, Go-wun told that bastard to put everything on her and not to disturb the peace of this place. Because for someone like her, who had never received love, Dong-baek's family was like a sacred place. There they had no reservations or distance towards her. Everyone cared for her and treated her more than their own family. It was this kindness that made a bad woman like her want to start her life over again. But in life, unexpected things often happen. Yong-sik, while investigating the murderer, had seen suspicious things about the food of stray cats in the street many times. For some reason, his hand was allergic to pesticides. At this point, he began to suspect the food that he had just witnessed the owner of the refrigerator store feeding the cats last night. This person's behavior was also very suspicious. But this guy kindness made a simple person like Yong-sik dismiss his suspicions. But Yong-sik could not have expected that this trust would lead to such an unpredictable result. Although he was a very loving person, Yong-sik was only a lowly security police officer. Financially, Dong-baek's ex-lover had the advantage. Today, while Yong-sik was eating dumplings at the bar, Dong-baek's ex-lover sent a box of toys for her son along with a credit card full of money. This probably touched Yong-sik's pride. But when people love, money just a fleeting thing. To Dong-baek, Yong-sik's heart is more important. While looking for a vase to put flowers in, Yong-sik accidentally found a box filled with blue lighters. This made him a little scared. It turned out that because of curious habit, Go-wun often stole lighters from customers. But these lighters appeared in 2 recent fires. Thinking back, the owner of the refrigeration store that Yong-sik met again this morning showed that he was very interested in Go-wun. That's why he often went to the pub. The truth was probably gradually being revealed. Go-wun suddenly remembered the details in her memory, but instead of telling Yong-sik, she kept it a secret, and then that silence caused the secret to be buried forever. Only 11 hours and 45 minutes left. Something no one expected would happen. This girl was truly pitiful. In order to have money for her younger brother to study abroad, then get married and settle down in America, she did not hesitate to do the lowest jobs. Even though she tried not to touch it, she took 30 million won from Dong-baek. But what she got in return was the disdain of her younger brother. Now her younger brother is living a happy life in America. If a lowly older sister appeared, it would be very embarrassing. The girl always tried to be strong. Even though she was despised or became cheap to others, she still tried every day to earn money. But now her only relative is just a bad person who pushed her out of their lives. Dong-baek is not doing well here either. Knowing that the person she trusted took the money and ran away, she feels less sorry for the money, but more heartbroken. The appearance of her ex-lover here made things even worse. His presence here often made Yong-sik uncomfortable, but it was even worse for Yong-sik's mother. After finding out about the appearance of this man, Yong-sik's mother came to painfully scold Dong-baek and then took her son back. Yong-sik was in love. He was afraid that Dong-baek would be criticized by his mother, but as a mother, it was difficult to accept that her son loved a single mom. Now that the woman her son loved was still related to X, it was even harder to accept. For a single mom's heart, the son was the most precious thing. So even if Yong-sik's mother had to be cruel, she didn't want her son to be hurt like that. Her words made Dong-baek extremely heartbroken. That night, after having no place to stay, Go-wun returned to Dong-baek's pub, but instead of scolding her or even suing her, Dong-baek cared and ignored everything. This made Go-wun feel ashamed of herself and burst into tears. So Go-wun went to deliver the goods instead of Dong-baek. But she didn't know that she was bearing the wrath of a killer for Dong-baek. In the dark night, Go-wun saw Dong-baek delivering the goods. This girl had just taken 30 million won from Dong-baek, so she felt guilty and wanted to help her pub owner. But she didn't expect that it was the last time they saw each other. The next morning, the police received news that Go-wun had left. Dong-baek came to report that she couldn't find Go-wun and the motorbike anymore. The police chief thought that Go-wun had run away because she stole the money, but Yong-sik thought differently. He thought that this time, it was probably the killer's doing. If so, then the killer's target last night was not Go-wun, but Dong-baek. At this point, he felt like he couldn't breathe. He felt suffocated because he was worried about the person he loved. Meanwhile, Dong-baek could only cry and think that Yong-sik was too tired of loving her. So she told him that if he was tired, then they should break up. This made Yong-sik really unable to bear it. He sent her away and returned to investigate the disappearance. But this case would probably be a challenge for the police. Go-wun had made enemies with countless people for money, not to mention that bastard who came looking for her the other day. Even Dong-baek's ex-lover and his model wife could be related clues, and the landlord whose wife was filing for divorce. Anyone could be the murderer the police were looking for. Yong-sik looked like that, but he couldn't stay mad at Dong-baek for long. As promised, he brought her flowers every night. But the police salary is not much, and he spends a lot of money every day to buy flowers. When he got to the door, Dong-baek's mother stopped him and chased him home. When got home, Yong-sik remembered that today was his father's death anniversary. It turned out that he had 2 older brothers. People often say that the youngest brother is always pampered, but when they heard that their younger brother was madly in love with Dong-baek, the 2 older brothers flew into a rage. They blamed him for giving all the love of his mother and why he didn't repay her and made her sad. But when he was beaten by his 2 older brothers, his mother stopped them. At least the 2 older brothers still lived with their father, but Yong-sik had never seen his father even once. So instead of scolding them, his mother told them to love Yong-sik more. What mother said made Yong-sik burst into tears. It must be said that his mother was truly great. Before, she was just a good wife and had a warm and happy family. Yet while she was pregnant with her youngest son, she received news that her husband had tragically died in a fire. She had to endure all the grievances and all the scorn with the title of widow and a single mother. In order to be both a mother and a father, she had to shoulder the burden of raising 3 sons. That made her become the formidable woman she is now. But today, she heard the news that her youngest son, whom she loved the most, was in the emergency room because he was injured while saving people in a big fire at the market. She was extremely worried and rushed to the hospital. It turned out that a few hours ago, Dong-baek was sitting in the waiting room when the fire alarm rang. She was confused and didn't know what was happening. She only knew that the door couldn't be opened. The reason she was here was because while she was shopping at the market, she heard an announcement calling her to go to the 2nd floor to get the receipt. But she didn't know that this was a trap set by a savage murderer. Because the market was full of flammable objects, the fire was getting more and more intense. While she was in a panic, someone ran like crazy into the fire. After evacuating all the people, Yong-sik rushed to the 2nd floor. When he saw the familiar basket of vegetables, he panicked even more. Look inside, he saw Dong-baek gradually losing consciousness. Yong-sik worriedly wanted to break the door to get in, but the door was burned by the fire, injuring him. But that couldn't stop him from saving his lover. He immediately poured water on himself and bet his life on love. He kicked the door with all his might and finally got inside. But when he opened his eyes, he was lying motionless on the hospital bed. As for Dong-baek, she was so worried and scared that she cried until her eyes were swollen. At this moment, Yong-sik took her hand, thought he would say something funny like before, but suddenly his expression became serious. He told her that he was so tired of running after her and protecting her that he couldn't stand it anymore. He thought it was time for them to stop. Yong-sik's words really made Dong-baek collapse. She had always thought that she was a comet. This was not the first time she had been abandoned. Although Dong-baek had prepared herself for a breakup, things couldn't be that simple. Actually, Yong-sik was just joking. He even suggested that the two of them get married. Dong-baek was deeply moved when she heard this. In the past 34 years, no man had proposed to her. Because Dong-baek's past was one of contempt and abandonment, Yong-sik's proposal was like a strange light that dispelled all the darkness in her life. Do you believe in fate? This young woman was pitiful. At her age, she had to be a single mother. In her arms, she was coaxing her crying little daughter. Her face was marked by extreme hardship. The two single women sympathized with each other. The little girl's feet touched the pregnant woman's belly. But they never expected that the bond from 30 years ago would bring about a love story when the camellias bloomed like this. No matter how much mother forbade it, Yong-sik still had his heart set on Dong-baek. He was badly burned, but he still insisted on getting dressed to continue the investigation, because if he didn't catch the culprit quickly, his worries would come true. While investigating, they found the helmet that Go-wun had worn that night thrown into a river. The blood on the helmet gave Yong-sik a bad feeling. This case definitely couldn't be a simple missing person case. The deeper they investigate, the more they find the victim has connections to bad guys. First, the younger brother that Go-wun saved up to raise only wanted to avoid paying his sister's debt. Then, the landlord, who had an illicit relationship with her. Because of sadness over his wife's abandonment, he got drunk until he lost his mind on the night of the incident. But what he saw also helped to shed some light on the situation. Do you know how cruel a person can be? When status, money, and honor are threatened, people can lose their minds to the point of wanting to murder someone. It turned out that because she was afraid of losing her title as the wife of the most expensive player, the wife of Dong-baek's ex-lover went crazy and stabbed the female employee. But her courage was not enough to commit murder. So what happened in the end? The only noble and selfless love in the world is probably maternal love. The mother carried the child for a long time and then raised the child herself. No matter how much the child hurt her, the mother still silently helped her child. Even though her son was willing to risk his life for his lover, this mother still stewed a big pot of duck to nourish her son. But after Yong-sik finished eating, he still insisted on loving Dong-baek. This made his mother want to kick him out of the house even more. It was true that when he was young, he was still his mother's son and always listening to his mother. But now that he had grown up, he could not be his mother's forever. The mother was also very helpless with this lovesick son. However, Dong-baek had never received that maternal love. This mother had heartlessly abandoned her daughter 30 years ago. Then one day she suddenly returned to play the role of a pitiful mother. This mother did not suffer from dementia, as she said. It was all just a play that she created to gain her daughter's sympathy, and from there, reconnect the mother-daughter bond, but not for any good purpose. It was just a move to get a kidney donation from her daughter. The mother's deception broke Dong-baek's heart again. She was truly unfortunate to be abandoned by her mother twice. This time her mother disappeared again, leaving her alone like 30 years ago. So Dong-baek looked for Yong-sik and burst into tears. But this incident was a bit unusual. The people around Dong-baek gradually disappeared. Then she was the only one left. This made Yong-sik and the police even more urgent to quickly investigate. Yong-sik even spent a whole day pulling radishes for the neighbor, then wandered around with the landlord to find clues. Even though they were looking for the murderer, looking at these three men was even more amusing. The more they investigated, the harder it was to solve the case. Looking back and forth, the more they felt that anyone could be the murderer. This landlord wasn't so useless. Thanks to his timely honesty, they finally had some hope. It turned out that the incident had started 5 years ago, the day Dong-baek became a witness to the murder case. It turned out that the academy building wasn't so mysterious for no reason. It was clear that no one had come to study for years, but the academy was still there without being dismantled. The reason was because inside, it was the gambling den of this entire neighborhood, a place filled with people who liked to gamble. So even though it had stopped operating, there were still security cameras outside. And in the video recording from 5 years ago, it captured the image of a woman in black entering the building where the crime took place that night. And that person was none other than Dong-baek's mother. Coincidentally, Dong-baek found the phone that her mother had accidentally left at her house. The phone explained everything that had happened. 5 years ago, this mother had worked at the orphanage where she had abandoned her 7-year-old daughter. Then she worked as a child caretaker at the kindergarten where Dong-baek's son was studying. Dong-baek's mother had always been there following her every step of her life. The mother that Dong-baek thought was hateful had endured all of daughter's hatred. The mother silently protected her daughter and grandson. Then that night when she was planning to go see her daughter, she ran into a murderer, the murderer that the whole country feared. It was thanks to a mother's intuition that she followed that stranger and witnessed her daughter about to be murdered. The mother had no choice but to press the fire alarm. Only then did Dong-baek truly understand the reason why she was lucky enough to live to this day. Not only that, Dong-baek's mother also spent all the money she earned to buy life insurance, and the beneficiary after her death was Dong-baek. It seemed that she had prepared for the worst-case scenario. This mother felt very guilty for abandoning her child, so even though she knew she wouldn't live much longer, she spent her last bit of life to find the serial killer. It couldn't be more surprising that the owner of this refrigeration store was the murderer that the police were looking for. At first, she didn't know who the murderer was, until the day this guy came to install a camera for the bar. The smell of paint that she smelled 5 years ago, and that look appeared again. The refrigeration store owner denied it, but with all the love of a mother to protect her daughter, what can a mother do? There is always a bond between people. Whether it's love, hate, anger, or resentment, it's still a bond. No matter how angry Yong-sik's mother was at him, she still sneaked into his house and covered the refrigerator with food. But perhaps the mother's worries were unnecessary because he was currently busy taking care of the person he loved. It turned out that after sending her son off to China today, Dong-baek had a high fever. She was alone, so Yong-sik came to take care of her. After everything, the person who truly loves you is still the one who will bring the sweetest warmth. Thanks to his devoted care, Dong-baek was able to feel the devotion from another person, something she had never had before. But the happiness did not last long. The murderer had probably targeted Dong-baek for a long time, even though she didn't testify to anything, but he kept pushing her into a corner. Dong-baek received a phone call. They called her to come and get the motorbike that Go-wun had delivered that night. Dong-baek thought it was Go-wun, so she came. Unexpectedly, she once again stepped into the hunter's trap. Yong-sik was with Dong-baek's ex-lover when he received a text message saying that Dong-baek was going to pick up the motorbike. This drove Yong-sik crazy. The car would not have been able to return by itself since the driver was no longer there. A woman's body was found on the riverbank. On the victim's hand was the bracelet that her ex-lover had given Dong-baek. At the same time, at an abandoned abandoned shopping mall, Dong-baek realized that danger was approaching. She quickly ran away. Dong-baek ran into the elevator, but the footsteps of the murderer got closer and closer. It was exactly like what happened 5 years ago. She was standing on the edge of the pit of death again, but this time, her mother was not there, so Dong-baek had to save herself. Dong-baek quickly pried open the elevator control panel. Just as the elevator was about to stop at the place where the murderer was waiting, she turned off the power. At that moment, Dong-baek was so scared that she couldn't breathe. Just like the beauty salon case 5 years ago, the people close to her would be brutally murdered one by one. The murderer once again left a note like what he had done before. It was a terrifying threat. It said that she should have come because of her so Go-wun was died. So Dong-baek learned the truth, a cruel and heartbreaking truth. She was the one who gave the bracelet to Go-wun. Dong-baek was also the one who stopped and watched Go-wun's back as she drove away. But Dong-baek didn't know that that fateful delivery would push Go-wun to such a humiliating end. Dong-baek burst into tears in pain. It was as if she had become a different person. Then she stopped crying and stood up. This war couldn't be avoided forever. After all, the person the murderer wanted to kill was her. So if she also wanted to chase him, this wouldn't be a hunt anymore. Thinking so, Dong-baek turned on the elevator. She didn't care that the murderer was waiting for her outside. But luckily the police had arrived and surrounded from all sides. Seeing Dong-baek step out, Yong-sik felt as if a 1,000-ton rock had been lifted off his shoulders. In the past hour, his heart had probably died by half. Dong-baek's past was a series of lonely days because of being abandoned, and now her childhood friend Go-wun had also left. Seeing what Go-wun left behind, Dong-baek couldn't bear it anymore. She cried until she collapsed to the ground. It was just the other day that person was laughing and talking with her at the pub. Go-wun had never known happiness in her entire life. Go-wun had only received human love when she met Dong-baek again. Yet all her efforts to have a peaceful life were taken away by a heartless murderer. This further urged Yong-sik to investigate the murderer. The neighborhood that was once peaceful was now in chaos because of the murderer. The wives who had always bullied Dong-baek were not happy when they learned that the murderer wanted to kill Dong-baek. They did not allow the murderer to touch their Dong-baek because only they had the right to do so. From being hated, Dong-baek became the center of attention in the neighborhood. The wives took turns protecting her. The neighborhood was always warm, and this really moved Dong-baek to tears. Everything that happened made Dong-baek afraid of having to say goodbye. But while Dong-baek was confused because of Go-wun, her son did not know what his mother was going through. Hearing that he was a burden to his mother, Dong-baek's son could not bear it. He blamed his mother for wanting to abandon him because of love. Although he was only 8 years old, he knew what would make his mother happy. Although he had just graduated from elementary school, he had already thought about how lonely his mother would be in the future when he got married. With all the love he had for his mother, he chose to live with his biological father. When Dong-baek learned that her son had chosen to live with her ex-lover, her heart ached immensely. But because of her son's choice, she swallowed her tears and watched him leave. However, the two of them were so similar. It was clear that without her son, her life was like death. Dong-baek no longer had any feelings for the business. Her son was not doing any better here. He was lost in the city with a father who was living with him for the first time and a stepmother who did nothing but sleep and eat. But when Dong-baek learned that her son had left because of her, she came to pick him up. Because she saw her son having to eat ready-made lunch, she punched ex-lover. When a woman becomes a mother, there are probably no limits. It was also because of that love for her son that Dong-baek put her personal feelings aside. She made an appointment with Yong-sik and then said goodbye in tears. The torture of still loving but having to break up was probably more painful than being betrayed by a lover. The two ended their sweet love affair with extreme pain. To cover up the breakdown of the breakup, both of them worked tirelessly. The more they investigated the murder case, the more people they found involved. First of all, there was the landlord, Dong-baek's ex-lover's wife, the lawyer's wife, and finally Dong-baek's mother. All of them had seen part of the incident that night. After piecing together all the details they reported, the police finally found the truth. It turned out that the murderer had transported the body in a pickup truck, and the owner of the truck was none other than the owner of the refrigeration store. But when comparing his DNA with the DNA on Go-wun, they found that it did not match. This caused Yong-sik and the investigation team to panic. It turned out that the murderer's father was also in the house. No one had ever known about this father's existence before. Their eyes were exactly the same. so the father was convicted of being the murderer and arrested. The shocking case that had once shocked the neighborhood ended. The murderer had truly been brought to light. It seemed like a happy ending for Dong-baek, but Dong-baek's life was truly pitiful. Her mother had returned, but the time her mother could spend with her was gone. Because her mother had a genetic disease, the mother was worried that the daughter would inherit it, so the mother did not want to receive treatment. That would require a donation from Dong-baek. So after arranging everything and sending a message to Yong-sik and his mother, Dong-baek's mother left once again. Poor Dong-baek had to cry all his life looking for her mother, but she could not have imagined that her mother abandoned her, whether this time or 30 years ago, all for the same reason. This woman was brutally abused by her husband, but only when the husband threw a glass at her daughter's head did this woman beat him and then took her daughter and left. A young mother with a small child in a strange place with no relatives could do anything to make a living. The woman both took care of her and worked as a waitress at a pub. To have money to raise daughter, she did not hesitate to do any job. Every day she worked until her fingerprints faded, but the environment she worked in would make her daughter despised. A mother's heart would burn like fire when her child cried out of hunger like this. If life with her mother would be a tragedy, then let her take all this resentment. In return, her daughter would have a better life. It was because of that thought that the mother mustered up all her courage to abandon her 7-year-old daughter. But giving up the child is probably the hardest thing for a mother. Not long after the mother returned to find her daughter, but was heartbroken to learn that her daughter had been adopted. Not giving up, she went to the adoptive family, but she was humiliated to learn that because the girl was the daughter of a bar woman, this woman had traded her daughter for another smarter child. This was like a knife stabbing the mother's heart. Later, she found her daughter, but found that she was also a single mother. Her daughter also opened a bar just like her. She did not expect that her daughter would grow up to look like her so much. She had originally intended to silently watch over her daughter, but the incident of the case 5 years ago made her uneasy. That was why the mother came back, pretending to not remember anything and using every means to protect her daughter. A mother's love is so great. So when she knew she would not live long, she hid from her daughter again. She found a place to rest and prepared for a peaceful departure. She hugged all the happy images of her daughter and closed her eyes to pass on to another world. Everything this mother did was just because she loved her child. Every word she left for Dong-baek left Dong-baek stunned. On the way to the hospital, Dong-baek learned everything. It turned out that Dong-baek was not unhappy, but she still had a mother who loved her so much. Luckily, the police found her mother in time, so her mother was quickly taken to the emergency room. Dong-baek's heart was broken, but she still tried to act strong and not cry. Outside the waiting room, Yong-sik looked at her with pity. People say that no matter how strong the wall is, when you are next to the person you love, everything will truly collapse. When Dong-baek saw Yong-sik, she burst into tears. All her fears and weaknesses were released. The two cried like two children in front of the emergency room. Suddenly, something went wrong. The hospital in this area could not continue the surgery, so they had to transfer to a higher level. But with all the love of the daughter, and all the prayers of the people around, and the help of the neighbors, a miracle happened to Dong-baek. Her mother was saved, but perhaps she shouldn't be too happy too soon. The murderer, after being caught, kept asking for his son to bring glasses. Yong-sik was surprised, so opened the bag of glasses this man wanted. Unexpectedly inside was the thing that was discovered during the autopsy in Go-wun's stomach. What he was worried about had indeed come true. The murderer they caught was just a substitute. In the face of Yong-sik's arguments, the father finally confessed everything. The real murderer was none other than the owner of the refrigeration store, who was also the son of this man. Unexpectedly, he appeared at Dong-baek's bar at this time. It turned out that Dong-baek felt a little sorry for him because he was being looked down upon by the neighbors, so she wanted to invite him to dinner. This made the real murderer go crazy. He made a coughing sound, a sound that had haunted Dong-baek for the past 5 years. She realized that he was the real murderer. Her life was in great danger. The police quickly arrived, but only to see the murderer walking out with pride. But even if he died, he would never have expected that a timid and fearful woman like Dong-baek, who only knew how to avoid everything, would not hesitate to hit him on the head with a glass of wine. To vent her anger for Go-wun, she used the cup that Go-wun often used to smash it straight on the murderer's head. He was just a coward. He killed people for a mental reason, which was the feeling of being looked down upon. He brutally murdered anyone he saw that they looking down on him. But in front of a crowd, he was really just a clown. He endured all of Dong-baek's humiliation without being able to resist, in front of the wives of this neighborhood. At this time, the police appeared, but they really didn't know who to protect because this serial killer was being beaten by all the women of the neighborhood. After all, they got back together. Yong-sik's mother loved Dong-baek's son like her own grandchild, so it was only logical that they were a family. Dong-baek's ex-lover also became a real father. The landlord also got back together with his wife. Happiness and peace covered the neighborhood. Such a happy home helped Dong-baek's son become a famous baseball. In front of the world's media, he thanked his parents, who were watching him on TV. The father with the rank of police chief and the mother still had the usual simple appearance. Their love created a wonderful ending. Love is an indispensable spice. Dong-baek once suffered from the lack of love, but thanks to that love, Dong-baek had the miracle of his life. The movie When the Camellia Blooms has also ended here. Thank you for your attention. See you again in the next movies.